You are currently standing in a burning building where the exits have been locked from the outside, and the people you think are in charge are the ones who started the fire. This is not a drill, and it isn't a simple budget debate. It is a calculated, cold-blooded financial slaughter of the American middle class designed to liquidate your life's work to pay for a $38 trillion mistake. Most of the world is staring at the 24-hour news cycle or fighting over tribal politics, while a silent, predatory machine has been activated in the dark corridors of the U.S. Treasury that is erasing your future in real time. The national debt is currently spinning past $35 trillion and heading into the $38 trillion abyss with a speed that defies human comprehension. But the terrifying truth is that the math has finally broken. For decades, the elites told us the deficits didn't matter and that the debt was just a scoreboard in a game where the points are fake. But in 2024, the predator finally caught up to the prey. For the first time in the history of this empire, the United States government is spending more on interest payments than it spends on its own national defense, meaning we are paying more to the bondholders of the past than we are to the soldiers of the present. This interest bill is approaching a staggering $1 trillion every single year, creating a terminal debt spiral where the government must borrow money from a new credit card just to pay the minimum monthly balance on the old one. There is no conventional way out of this trap because the only two honest options are politically impossible and economically suicidal. If you think they're going to fix this through budget cuts, you are dreaming in a world that no longer exists. To balance the books now, they would have to delete the entire U.S. military, stop every social security check, and close every hospital in the country simultaneously. And even then, the interest would keep growing. They have spent the future of your children to buy the votes of the present, and now the bill has arrived with a vengeance that cannot be ignored. Every second that passes, the debt increases by tens of thousands of dollars, a relentless ticking clock that marks the final days of the dollar's undisputed reign. You are witnessing the birth of a fiscal black hole that swallows every tax dollar before it can ever be used for a road, a school, or a bridge. The full faith and credit of the United States is being tested by a reality where the math simply does not add up, and the people in Washington are hoping you don't realize the vault is already empty. If they can't pay the debt and they can't default, they only have one weapon left: the silent erasure of your wealth through financial repression. They are not going to send a man in a suit to take your house. They are going to wait until the money in your bank account can no longer afford the shingles on your roof. This is a soft default, a coward's exit, where they pay back every cent they owe, but they do it with currency that has been stripped of its lifeblood. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is the official, unspoken policy of a government that has no other choice but to melt away the real value of its obligations. By deliberately keeping interest rates lower than the actual rate of inflation, they are effectively taxing every dollar you save without ever having to pass a bill in Congress. If the government owes $30 trillion and they can manufacture 5% inflation while keeping your savings account at 1%, they have effectively stolen over $1 trillion of purchasing power from the public in a single year. To make this heist work, they have to lie to you about the cost of staying alive, which is why the Consumer Price Index has become the greatest work of fiction in human history. They use substitution bias to tell you that if steak is too expensive, you'll just eat hamburger, so technically your cost of living hasn't gone up. They use hedonic adjustments to claim that because your new smartphone has a better camera, it's actually cheaper than the old one, even if it costs $300 more. It is a massive psychological operation designed to gaslight the American worker into believing that the reason they can't afford a home is a personal failure rather than a systemic theft. While they tell you inflation is 2%, your insurance premiums, your grocery bills, and your utility costs are screaming a different reality. This is the great wealth transfer in action, fueled by the Cantillon Effect, where the elites who sit closest to the money printer get to buy assets at yesterday's prices, while you receive the devalued currency months later after the damage is already done. They have created a system of captive buyers, legally forcing banks and pension funds to hold government bonds that are guaranteed to lose value over time, effectively turning your retirement fund into a garbage bin for the Treasury's bad debt. We have entered the era of fiscal dominance, a terrifying state of affairs where the Federal Reserve is no longer an independent guardian of the economy, but has been reduced to a personal enabler of a bankrupt treasury. The independence of the central bank is a myth from a bygone era, as the money printer has now been permanently fused to the government's spending habits. The Fed cannot raise interest rates high enough to actually kill inflation, because doing so would immediately trigger a sovereign debt crisis that would bankrupt the United States government overnight. If rates return to the levels seen in the 1980s, the interest on the debt would consume 100% of all tax revenue, leaving nothing for the military, the police, or the infrastructure of the country. This means the Fed is trapped. They are forced to tolerate higher and higher prices to keep the government from collapsing under its own weight. You're being sacrificed to keep the ghost of the empire alive for one more day, as the money printing machine becomes the only thing preventing a total systemic seizure. The bond market, which once acted as a vigilante to keep government spending in check, has been broken by decades of central bank intervention. There is no longer a free market for debt, only a managed decline where the government picks the winners and the savers are the guaranteed losers. This dynamic creates a casino economy where you are no longer rewarded for hard work and thrift, but are forced to gamble in the stock market or crypto just to prevent your life savings from evaporating. The foundation of a stable society, a currency that holds its value, has been demolished to fund a level of spending that has no historical precedent outside of a world war. They are hoping you're too busy arguing over the headlines to notice that the very definition of money is being redefined to favor the debtor and destroy the creditor. The era of the risk-free investment is dead, replaced by a world where the only risk-free thing is the certainty that your dollar will be worth less tomorrow than it is today. The final stage of this heist is currently being built in the shadows of the Federal Reserve, the central bank digital currency. This is not about the convenience of digital payments. It is about the total removal of the exit from the financial system. In a world of physical cash, you could always take your money out of the bank and wait for the storm to pass. But in a digital cage, there is nowhere to hide. A CBDC gives the government the power to implement negative interest rates instantly, meaning they can literally deduct money from your account every month you refuse to spend it. They can set expiry dates on your savings, force you to spend your money on specific goods, and deduct social credit penalties for your behavior or your politics. It is the ultimate solution to the $38 trillion debt crisis. The power to micromanage the wealth of 300 million people and confiscate whatever is needed to keep the machine running. History shows us that when a government reaches this level of desperation, they stop asking for permission and start taking by force, just as they did in 1933 when they criminalized the ownership of gold to trap the population in a devaluing dollar. We are rerunning the exact economic playbook used to liquidate the debt after World War II. But this time, the technology of control is absolute, and the exit doors are being welded shut. You must realize that the safe options, the bank accounts, the government bonds, the traditional savings plans, are now the most dangerous traps of all. The only way to survive the silent eraser is to own scarce, hard assets that cannot be printed, diluted, or deleted by a government that has run out of time and is now running out of victims. Whether it is gold, land, or decentralized assets, you must move your wealth outside of the reach of the bureaucrats who are currently burning the ledger to hide their crimes. The great wealth transfer is not a future event. It is happening every time you see the price of a gallon of milk go up,
and it is the sound of the silent eraser at work on a debt that can never be paid, only stolen. This is your final warning. The $38 trillion bomb has already been detonated, and the only thing left to decide is who gets buried in the rubble and who has the courage to walk away from the wreckage before it's too late.